Joining me now, from Bismarck, where the legislative session kicked into full gear yesterday, with Governor Dalrymple's State of the State address, is North Dakota Assistant Minority Leader Corey Mock, Democrat from the Grand Forks area. And Corey, first of all, welcome to the program. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much, Rob, and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, same to you. Let me first just ask a question. What did you think of the Governor's State of the State address?
Well, Rob, I think the governor, he certainly highlighted on one important fact, and that it's undeniable that North Dakota's state of the state is unquestionably one of the strongest in the nation. So there's no doubt about that. We're doing very well with being blessed with energy and plenty of resources, a strong agricultural sector, but our concern is that what are we doing today to make sure that the state of the state in 20 years from now is just as strong, if not stronger, than it is today. But the governor came out, pointed out that we've been doing well, but today is a new day. Today is when we need to start working as legislators and making sure that we're doing the people's work so that we can set the stage for a successful next generation of governments and policies.
Some of us, and it was interesting to me that the governor seemed, I don't know that defensive is the right word, but he mentioned it specifically during his speech where he said, he made sure to go out of his way to say that we're not overspending, we're not putting North Dakota in a vulnerable position with our budget growth, and he referred specifically to the national fiscal issues going on in Washington, D.C., and he said North Dakota is not in that position, and I agree with him, we're not in that position right now, not while we're seeing the oil revenues roll in to state coffers, but when you look back at spending growth, I mean, we're taking the total appropriation budget to nearly $13 billion now. That's a huge increase over the last decade. I can't even put a percentage on it, but it's more than doubling, I think. Is there a worry that we're going to get to a point where we've just expanded spending to the point where if something happens with oil, we're going to be in trouble?
Well, I can't speak for the governor and why he mentioned that in the State of the State, but I do think that there are concerns from legislators and then from the public in general that as you said, in the last decade, our state spending has doubled, if not more. That's not a sustainable level of spending. Now, we're going to have to look at the numbers. Much of that spending is for one-time expenses. It's investments in roads and bridges. It's providing needful and meaningful property tax relief. But there are concerns. I think when the governor got up yesterday and spoke to the state that we're not going to overspend. I certainly hope that he means that we are making the appropriate investments, but we're doing it responsibly and making sure that our ongoing spending will always be able to be met with or without any oil development in western North Dakota.
Let's talk specifically about something that I was looking at the response that you and your fellow Democrat legislative leaders had put out, and one of the issues that you highlighted I thought was interesting. I want to quote directly from the press release. It says, ensuring open and transparent government by requiring disclosure of corporate and union political expenditures in the wake of the Citizens United and American Tradition partnership cases. Translate for that. So what does that mean in real-world policymaking?
Well, last August, I went down I was in Grand Forks and in Fargo with my colleague, Representative Ed Grushala from District 45 in Fargo. And him and I, we introduced or laid the groundwork, the framework for our Sunshine Act, which will shed light on campaign contributions and make government more accountable to the people and to those who fund campaigns. As you referenced that talking point in our response yesterday, Citizens United, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on two cases now that contributions from corporations and from labor unions are considered free speech and are allowed, recognized as allowable by the law, and that's the law of the land. What we're concerned with is that the citizens of our state know who is funding political campaigns, where the money's coming from, and just making sure that all candidates for office are held accountable. So we're going to hold.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Let me jump in with a question there, because we already have disclosure for campaigns. And I actually think we could be doing more disclosure. I think the reports we could have more reports. It could be faster reports. We could disclose more things, such as expenditures in addition to money coming in. So I think there's some things that we could do there. But are you talking about like private groups? Like if I had just hypothetically had a private group that was spending money opposing or supporting candidates in the state, you would want disclosures from that private group?
What we're talking about is political ads, and they're recognized by all entities, whether it's by a campaign committee or by an organization that has a political message, either in support of or against a candidate or an issue on the ballot. That those dollars used to fund that campaign are disclosed and made available. I think you and I can both agree that we need to do more to make sure that citizens have that information, they have it timely, and they have it, in a place when they go to cast a ballot, they're going to know everything they need to know to make a comfortable vote. So that's what we're going to work on. We've got a few different issues.
And I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, though. If we're talking about a private group, not affiliated with any political party or any candidate, and I make contributions, you want to disclose the fact that individual citizens made contributions to that group?
What we're talking about is independent expenditures that are in North Dakota, and making sure that if there is an independent expenditure for political activity, that is disclosed. Again, North Dakota, we still haven't defined where North Dakota is situated as a response to Citizens United and the American Traditions Partnership cases, the Montana suing the United States or suing on those grounds, making sure that law, that their ban of corporate contributions was legal. The Supreme Court said it wasn't. North Dakota has a similar ban, but we didn't join that Supreme Court. So we're going to ask the Attorney General to clarify where North Dakota is with regard to corporate contributions and labor union direct contributions, if they are allowed in North Dakota, that the laws reflect that and that it's disclosed. And that's really what we're getting at.
Okay. All right. Well, that seems fair enough. What about some of your other priorities for the legislature? I know you were talking about, and honestly, in reading your press release, I came away with the feeling that a lot of these are sort of the government's priorities as well. Maybe not in method, but it certainly seems in objective. First is the increasing local government share of oil tax revenues. I know that's something that the governor has addressed. Establishing a permanent endowment, which will merit-based scholarships. I don't know the details of it, but Governor Dalrymple mentioned appropriating more money for scholarships yesterday. And things like that. So where are the areas where you would say that the Democrat caucus in the legislature differs from the governor?
Well, a lot of the differences are going to come from how we provide the tax relief and some of the policies. I think you're right. The governor has, I think he laid out a framework, a plan that has mirrored the Democratic NPL priorities for
sure. We're up against the break. I know you're busy at the session. Do you have time to hold over for another segment?
I can take a little bit more on the other end. That's about it.
All right. Well, let's do a few minutes on the other side. Corey Mock, Assistant Minority Leader at the North Dakota Legislature. I'm Rob Port. Don't go away. Welcome back. Rob Port sitting in for Scott Hennen, 855-200-1776 if you want to join the program. Also, you can email me, rob@sayanythingblog.com. We're on with Assistant Minority Leader Corey Mock. He's a leader in the Democratic caucus in the North Dakota Legislature. And Corey, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you as we were going to a break. You were finishing a thought there about where the priorities of your caucus may differ from the governor's.
Yeah, and Rob, welcome. Good to be back. And a lot of the priorities that the Democratic caucus is going to have is really going to be about North Dakota families. When we talk about property tax relief, we want to make sure that the property tax relief is felt by all North Dakota families. And that means, it's the residents. It's not it's putting the emphasis on the residents first. It's also looking to relief that's going to benefit those who don't own property, such as renters. It's about 1/6 of the state rents their home and doesn't pay direct property taxes. And with the governor's property tax proposal, they won't see a nickel more in their pocket. So when we draw the line between the two proposals, ours are going to be focused on the residents of our state at all levels and from all backgrounds, and making sure that we're funding our priorities appropriately.
What specifically, and I know you just let me know when you're out of time here, what specific tax reduction policies are you putting on the table?
Well, we've done a lot with property tax relief as well, and for example, I'm on the education committee, and this morning we were listening to the proposal. What we support is funding education to a level that helps lower individuals' property tax rates, the mill levies. The governor came out with that proposal. We stand behind that for the most part. What we'd like to see is more of that relief put into the pockets of North Dakota residents, and not make it on a large scale corporate or on corporate-owned land or some of those other areas. What we would like to see is the state getting. And actually, let me back this up a little bit. Rob. Over the last 5 or so years, North Dakota's been buying down mill levies by funding education. That's all been based on property valuation. In western North Dakota, valuations have skyrocketed and property values going up. Well, that's shifted the burden to the state, across the state, having to pay for increased valuations in western North Dakota. So a funding formula from our side would pay for the students, a higher portion paying for students, and not basing it solely on property value. We support that. Like I said, we really want to see more of the tax credits for those who rent property and wouldn't receive property tax relief. And we also have some members of our caucus that want to see tax relief in other areas, including sales tax. And I think they're going to come out with those individual bills to make sure that North Dakotans are getting more in their pocket at the end of the session.
Last question, because I know you have to go. I ask this question of Republicans all the time, and I never get a very good response to it. I'm wondering how using state revenues, because we all pay taxes to the state too. We pay the sales tax, we pay income taxes and things like that. How using state tax revenues to buy down local property taxes is tax relief. I mean, aren't we just shifting the spending from the local level to the state level? I mean, isn't that burden just going from local tax revenues to state tax revenues? It doesn't seem like I'm getting a lot of relief there.
Well, for the last few bienniums, that statement is probably closer to fact than not. The state was putting more into the school districts through their funding formula that was directly tied to the value of the property. I think the proposals that we'd like to see would put money as an investment into the individual students attending the school. The cost for educating a student per year can range anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a year. If the state picks up a share of that it's a little greater, I think in the area of $8,000 to $10,000 as just a general average per student, that's going to lower those property taxes. It's going to remove the burden that school districts need to levy on the property owners to educate students.
Yeah. So basically, we're just moving that burden from local taxes to state taxes, right? I mean, which I think right now
we're funding education. We always have been funding education at some level from the state of North Dakota, and of course, our income is we have a fairly diversified income through all of our tax streams. This is just going to increase the state's share of K-12 education and inadvertently reduces the burden on the local taxpayers through their property taxes.
Right. And that's obviously an easy thing to do right now when we've got revenues just being pumped into state coffers from the oil revenues and things like that. But absent that, I mean, that's still putting that burden on the income taxes and the sales taxes and all the other taxes that we pay to the state, right?
Well, you can make the same argument about roads. If the state didn't put money into the Department of Transportation to improve roads, you still need the roads to get from farm to market and other infrastructure. So, if the state doesn't pay for it, they're going to have to get repaired somehow, and that's a burden that will be shifted back to the property taxes in each county. If you wanted to look at it that way, I mean, that's the way the whole tax system is set up when you have political subdivisions working with the state of North Dakota.
Right, but it's not really fair then to call it tax relief then, is it? I mean, because there's no relief there. I mean, we're not getting rid of that burden. Somebody's still paying for it. We're just paying for it differently.
The individual property tax payers are going to see relief in their property tax assessment, and we're doing it without raising any taxes in North Dakota.
But they're going to see more spending burden. They're going to see more
in the pockets of North Dakota taxpayers.
Yeah. Well, we may have to agree to disagree. I know you're a busy man. I'll let you go, Corey. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Rob. Thank you at any time.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's Corey Mock, Assistant Minority Leader, and nice guy. I like Corey a lot. I don't quite understand the property tax situation, though. I don't see how shifting property taxes from, that burden for spending from local to the state is really, the spending's not going away. I pay state taxes too. You're just shifting the burden for that spending from the taxes I pay on the local level to the taxes I pay at the state level.